It's doing something. Okay, it's doing something. Looks like we're live, so I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, I think Mark just fell off. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, super. So before I call the meeting to order, this obviously is not typically how we run our meetings. We're usually doing these in city council chambers, so this is a little bit different. For some of you, you may have never used this type of software before. Zoom might be kind of new to you. For others, especially the students that I see around the room, you're probably so tired of it that you don't even want to be on Zoom right now. So I appreciate everybody being here and willing to participate in the meeting during these extraordinary times. I'm glad we were able to do this. I'm thankful to the city that they could set this up for us, that we can have this meeting, not only for the dog park, but for the variance request today. So I guess just some minor housekeeping things. As I understand it, the only people that are unmuted right now are the commissioners, and everybody else is muted. And that's not to say that we're not going to afford the opportunity for anybody else to speak. It just gets a little complicated on Zoom. What I found is that if you get too many people on there, it's just too much background noise. In addition to that, depending on bandwidth and your internet connection, sometimes there can be a bit of a delay. So what I found is usually it's either two people talking at the same time or nobody talking. So I'm going to try and do my best to get to everybody that has questions and comments on whatever we're talking about tonight. And doing so, if you do have a question, and I hate to treat everybody like kindergartners, but if you do have a question, if you could possibly raise your hand, I can see all of you. So I'll get to you at some point if you do have a question or comment or want to address the commission or the public in any way. I'll get to you. When we do get to the variance request, one requirement of us is, as commissioners, is to state if we viewed the property and who we spoke to. And usually we just go down the line when we do that. And what I'll do this time is I'll just call on each commissioner as you come up, and then have you address the public on whether or not you visited the site and who you spoke to. So a little bit different, but I think we'll make it through. And again, thanks to the city for setting this up for us. So with that, Yvonne, are you on and can you hear us? Yvonne?
She is on, but I haven't found her to unmute her on the list of attendees yet.
Okay. Okay, well, assuming she can hear us, I can actually go through real. Oh, she can. Okay, good.
Can you hear me, Mike?
I can, yep.
Okay, great.
Okay. So with that, I have, according to my computer clock, 6:32 p.m., and I will call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is roll call.
Commissioner Brown,
Present?
Commissioner Travis,
Present.
Commissioner Porter,
Present.
Commissioner Knight,
Present.
Commissioner Slaughter,
Present.
Commissioner Bosner. Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne.
You're welcome.
Next order of business is review and acceptance of the agenda for this evening.
I'll make the motion that we accept the agenda for the meeting.
And I'll second it.
Okay. So that was Commissioner Travis with the motion and Commissioner Porter with the second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next on the agenda is The acceptance of staff reports, documents, and correspondence into the meeting record.
I'll make that motion that we accept the staff reports, documents, and correspondence into the meeting record.
I'll second.
Get that. Go ahead, Carl.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Travis, a second by Commissioner Bosner. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the minutes, the review and acceptance of the September 11th, 2019 meeting minutes.
I'll move we accept the minutes of the September 11th meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Knight, a second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Board of Adjustment for public hearings. And this is case number 2020-002. And this is a variance public hearing on the question of authorizing a side and rear yard setback variance for the construction of an attached garage addition filed by Dave Johnson on property addressed at 525 Bramwell Street, Green River, Wyoming. So before we begin, I've got to go over a couple of formalities regarding the Board of Adjustment for public hearing. So with this, these proceedings are being recorded. The board will keep a record of these proceedings in its office, and copies will be made available to any party at cost. The board will provide a written decision within 30 days of this hearing. The vote in favor of 4 members of the board is required for approval of a variance. If you want to table your request until more members are present, you may elect to do so. Decisions of the board may be appealed to the district court in accordance with the applicable provisions of the city zoning ordinance, state statutes, and rules of appellate procedure. All witnesses must be sworn in before testifying. Will all in the audience please raise your right hand? That's everybody. Okay, I see a lot of right hands. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will be giving before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. When addressing the board, we don't have a podium, but when addressing the board, please raise your hand. And when your microphone comes on, please speak your name clearly into the microphone. I will now request that each board member who has personally inspected the property identify themselves on the record and generally describe when and how they viewed the property. Each board member should also disclose the details of any conversations with the applicant or adjoining property owners. So with that, I'm Commissioner Brown. I visited the site yesterday about 12:30 p.m. and I spoke with no one. And then I'll let Commissioner Porter go next.
Commissioner Porter, I'm not presently able to drive, but I am familiar with the area and I have spoke to no one.
Okay. Commissioner Travis?
Commissioner Travis, I drove by the property yesterday morning and I spoke with no one.
Okay. Commissioner Bosner?
I drove by the property today and I spoke with no one.
Okay. Commissioner Knight?
Commissioner Knight, I drove by the property about a week ago and I spoke to no one.
Okay. And Commissioner Slaughter?
I drove by the property today and I spoke to no one.
Okay. So we are here to rule on the request of a specific variance, and all discussion should center on this issue. So with that, maybe I'll turn it over to Amy if you want to maybe talk briefly about the variance, and then I'll afford the applicant an opportunity to speak about it as well too.
Okay, I've got, can you hear me?
Yes.
The petitioner Dave Johnson is requesting consideration to authorize a side setback variance of approximately 2 feet 3 inches and a rear setback variance of approximately 2 feet 9 inches for the construction of a new attached garage addition to the existing residence located at 525 Bramwell Street in Green River, Wyoming. Pursuant to Appendix B, Section 2.3.11 of the City of Green River Code of Ordinance, the side yard setback in an R3 zoning district shall be the minimum distance of 7.5 feet from the side property line. The petitioner is requesting to locate the new garage approximately 5 feet 3 inches from the side property line, requiring a variance of approximately 2 feet 3 inches, which also abuts the alley there. The second variance request is for the rear yard setback in an R3, which shall be a minimum distance of 15 feet from the rear property line. The proposed addition will be in line with the rear of the existing home, which is located approximately 12 feet 3 inches from the rear property line, requiring a variance of approximately 2 feet 9 inches. In an R3 zoning district, zone lots occupied by single-family dwellings shall maintain 50% of the lot as open space. If approved, total coverage will be 1,941 square feet, or only 32% of the lot. And the size of the homes within the proposed addition is reasonable size home for this property. A public hearing notice was published in the Green River Star on Wednesday, April 29th, 2020, and Wednesday, May 6th, 2020. A sign was posted on the property. And then in addition, to ensure proper notifications of nearby property owners, on April 29th, 2020, notification letters were mailed to all property owners within 200 feet of subject property. Interested persons were invited to submit written comments or concerns, and at this time I have received nothing. That's what I got.
All right, thank you, Amy. Mark, if you could unmute Dave's microphone. And I'd ask if Dave has any comments or anything he wants to address the commission with.
Hi, guys. Yeah, I'm just trying to make a usable garage out of it. The current garage right now is really not big enough to put one car in it, so I don't really have anything other than that. Does anybody have any questions on the whole overall plan of it?
So I have a question. This is Commissioner Knight. I noticed there was a shed that was there in about the same location as that garage is proposed to be. Will that shed remain on the property, or is that going to go away?
Yeah, it's gonna go away. It wouldn't fit there when I put the garage in. I'm gonna be shedless.
And is that a staircase that I see in the back? Is that?
Yeah, it's in the garage. I actually have a vault underneath the garage.
Okay.
Under half the garage will be a vault.
Does that exist currently?
No, right now it's just solid concrete right there. Right now, all that's coming out. So no, it does not exist currently.
And is anything going to happen to the fence that's at the edge of the property? Or is that...
I'm giving the fence away, and then the remainder that will be in the back corner where that shed is, I'm gonna have that fence go from my garage to the back property line.
Okay, so that'll be open to the alley there.
Yeah, the garage will be open to the alley. And it might not be real clear on my site plan there, but I'm not exiting into the alley or entering to the alley. Everything will be off my existing driveway to the front on Bramwell.
Okay. Will that be sufficient space to put the vehicles that are all over in there in that garage, or are you still going to have overflow?
Yeah, but all my cars will fit in the garage now. I have a real small off-road camper. I can even put it in there.
That's all the questions I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just had one question. This is Commissioner Bosner.
How
Do you
are
know, good, how are you?
Good.
I assume this is like a 2-car garage, right? Do you have the dimensions of the actual garage?
I set them on there. The actual garage, I was gonna wait till I turned in the building permit plan. The garage, the total dimensions of the garage, I believe's like 31.5 feet wide and like 29 foot deep, 29.5 foot deep.
That's all I really had. That was my only question.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Sure.
Are these gonna be 2 separate garages or will they be?
No, it'll be one garage. So the way I'm gonna do it, so I don't expose all my contents of the garage to the elements. The garage on this is gonna be built over the top of the existing garage. Once that's dried in, I'm gonna go in and demolish the garage that's there. And then that's basically in a nutshell. But yeah, it'll be a 1 garage. I think I thought I submitted maybe elevations of it. I'm not for sure if I did on this go around. But yeah, it'll just be 1 garage.
Okay, because I know that, don't we have a 1,200 square foot limit or we have to have another variance? Is that, am I remembering that correctly or not?
That's for an accessory structure. This will be an attached structure.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I had, so.
All right, thank you.
I have a question for Amy, if that's okay. Is this lot considered to be smaller than what a standard lot size is?
A minimum lot size in an R3 district is 60 feet with a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet. And this lot is,
It's like 6185.
Yeah,
okay, 'cause I don't have it in front of me. So, I mean, in an R3, it's about normal size. Does that answer, I'm sorry, does that answer the question?
That does answer my question, because I mean, what I'm looking for is the reason why it's a hardship, or why it's, what's the extraordinary circumstance?
To get the minimal use, or he's requesting the minimal size for the garage without being excessive. And it's the variant setback. I mean, he's got an existing home that already was kind of non-conforming with the 12-foot, a little over 12-foot rear setback. So he was going to have to get a variance for that anyway.
Right.
And then again, the 2 foot from the rear or from the side property line, but it abuts an alley. And there's really not any other place for him to put that garage.
Sure. No, I think I don't have a problem with it personally. I'm just, we're supposed to try to meet all the criteria. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm seeing where that happens. So.
I mean, in an R1, lot sizes are 7,500. I mean, that's the minimum, but in an R2, R3, and an R4, it's 6,000 is the minimum lot area requirements now.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the commission? It's hard to get a sense over web camera, but I'd remind the applicant that a vote in favor of 4 of us is required for the variance. It's not necessarily a majority vote. It has to be 4 of us. It's hard to get a sense of what everybody's kind of thinking. I guess I did have one maybe question, or at least something to point out, is that the existing house and the existing garage are not within those setback requirements as it sits right now. And it looks to me, and then I don't want to speak for Dave, but it looks to me that the new garage was placed along the back line of the existing garage just to keep that building line flush, so you wouldn't have some sort of weird jog in the building in relation to the house. And it is a 2-car garage, which is fairly typical in this, in this day and age, I guess, or in this town. So any other comments or questions from the commission? If not, I would I guess entertain a vote for that.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion since I'm the one that spoke the most, I guess. I'll say upon finding that all the conditions required under the City of Green River Code of Ordinances, Appendix B, Section 12.3B are satisfied, I move to approve the side yard setback variance of approximately 2 feet, 3 inches, and the rear yard setback variance of approximately 2 feet, 9 inches for the construction of the new attached garage addition to be located at 525 Bramwell Street, Green River, Wyoming, as presented on the submitted site plan.
And I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Knight, second by Commissioner Porter. Would like to open up maybe to further discussion if there's anybody from the public. A lot of people on camera. I would assume that they're here for the next item on the agenda, but if there is someone from the public that would like to address this variance, if you would raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you for your time. Thanks, guys.
Well,
Now, how do I close this thing off?
Hit the power button.
Hey, thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
You too, Dave.
You do.
Right. Next item on the agenda is Planning and Zoning Commission public hearings, and seeing none, we'll move on to new business. So next on the agenda is case 2020-004. And this is a request for Greenbelt Overlay Special Use Permit approval for the construction of a dog park filed by the Green River High School National Honor Society to be located at 80 East Teton Boulevard, Green River, Wyoming. And it sounds like we've got, or it looks like we've got a lot of people kind of listening into this meeting, and I appreciate all the kids that have joined us tonight and listening to this meeting. So I'd like to, I guess this is something that's a little bit new to this commission. And I've got a little bit of background of this project because I am involved with some of the design work on this. And it's been a great project to work with these kids. They've done just an amazing job of raising money and coming up with designs and having this vision and having just the sheer motivation to get this together. And it's just been an amazing ride for me to witness all this. And I'm just glad to be part of it. I'm going to be voting tonight, even though we are, the company that I work for is involved with the project. We're doing this pro bono. And we're doing this because we see a lot of value in this for our community. And quite frankly, we couldn't just pass this up, seeing all the hard work and time and energy that's invested by these kids. We just wanted to be part of it. So with that, what I'll do, I know Victoria Hemphills is with us tonight, and she's here to answer any questions about the dog park itself. And with that, I think what we'll do is hand it over to maybe Amy, and you can talk a little bit about some of the logistics of why we're here, and then hand it over to the commission for questions. So with that, I'll hand it over to Amy.
All right, thanks, Mike. So the petitioner, the Green River High School National Honor Society, is seeking consideration for a special use permit approval for the construction of a dog park to be located on the City of Green River property at 80 East Teton Boulevard. The property is located within the Greenbelt Conservation Overlay District and therefore requires special use permit approval. The proposed site is located next to the animal control, which is zoned I-1 light industrial, O open land, and is located within our Greenbelt Conservation Overlay District. Development within the conservation overlay zones requires a special use permit issued by the governing body. The Greenbelt Conservation Overlay District is intended to protect and preserve the Green River floodway through the community as a natural resource. I'm going to read the zoning on that just so that everybody is aware of it. In accordance with section 7.2 of the Green River zoning ordinance, conservation overlay zones, development and land use within the conservation overlay district shall be guided by the ability to comply with the following planning policies for the environment. Critical wildlife habitats shall be protected. Adequate impact mitigation measures shall be provided to ensure the preservation of existing wildlife. In order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the city residents, the city shall discourage development and reserve the right to reject development on excessive slopes, 25% or greater, rockfall zones, and/or the 100-year floodway. The city shall encourage the development of areas with the least environmental constraint. If development is proposed on the area of moderate or severe environmental constraints, the developer shall be required to mitigate the problems. Development shall be planned to minimize the disturbance of the environment. The disturbance of slopes and natural drainage areas shall be kept to a minimum to ensure erosion, sedimentation, runoff, and loss of ground cover area are minimized. Areas that are considered to be valuable scenic or unique features such as Man's Face or Castle Rock shall be preserved as much as possible as open space, and the city shall take an active role in preservation of the green belt along the river and shall encourage other agencies to recognize the value of the green belt system. A development review committee meeting was held on February 27th, 2020 to discuss the proposed development, and the comments are attached. The review procedures for this. So the Planning and Zoning Commission may approve the application and forward the recommendations to the governing body if the commission determines the special use permit satisfies the following criteria: will not endanger the public health or safety, will not injure the value or adjoining or abutting property, will be in harmony with the area in which it is located, and will be in conformity with the comprehensive master plan. After due deliberation, the commission shall certify its findings and recommendations on any proposed special use review to the governing body in writing. At that time, the item is scheduled for public hearing and resolution by the governing body, which we are scheduled for June 2nd at this point. After the public hearing has been held, the governing body shall vote on the special use permit application. In its deliberation, the governing body shall take into consideration all of the evidence and comments presented at the hearing, agency and community comments, and the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission. No special use permit shall be approved until the governing body has adopted a resolution that states the intent of the governing body concerning the permit. Public comments. To ensure proper notification of nearby property owners, notification letters were mailed to property owners within 200 feet of the subject property. Interested parties were again invited to submit comments, and as of right now, I haven't received any. That's all I have.
Thanks, Amy. So for the benefit of this commission, this is not something we typically see as a commission. It's not a variance. It's not a home business license or a special permit. This the reason why we're having to hear this case tonight is because a portion of the dog park is going to be in that open spaces land use, specifically within that green belt zone. And in doing so, there's specific requirements. If someone were to build something within that green belt zone, it has to come before this commission and eventually the council for consideration. So we're not necessarily voting for approval of the dog park or the permit. We're simply voted either in favor of recommending or in favor of not recommending this to council in June, I guess. So with that, I'll open it up to questions and comments for the commissioners. Go ahead, Commissioner Slaughter.
Okay, I'm looking at all the maps and I drove by there today and I'm trying to get a feel for how far over the dog park would go towards where they currently have like the barrels set up for the horses and like the exercise areas. Does it actually go over and take out where the barrels are being used for the horses, or how does that work right there?
So I could actually speak to that.
Okay.
The dog park that's being proposed is, if you look at and thanks Mark for bringing that up. There's two areas. There's a large dog area and then a small dog area that's denoted in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then around that area, I guess to the east and to the south is a dashed line. And these would be potential future dog park expansion areas. For this particular permit and for the design and for initial construction, they're just looking at the large dog area and the small dog area. So it's just those two areas. And if you look off to the right, a little bit of those two areas, you see a larger circle and then a smaller circle. Those are those, and I'm not an equestrian person, so you're gonna have to forgive me, but those are those areas that have those barrels, and that's where the horses they go around and have those facilities. So we didn't want to impact those facilities with the initial portion of it. But I know that the National Honor Society has worked with the horse corral group of people in this design. They've been communicating back and forth. And, there's not necessarily a future plan to expand, but just a kind of a future area denoted for the future dog park expansion that would end up impacting at least one of those barrel areas.
Yeah. Just thinking about the part where she said that they need to be in harmony. We don't want to cause conflict between the two groups, the dog park and the horse area, where the horses have been there for so long. But if we're only recommending this first phase, that's different, Yeah,
and that's what this is what this permit covers. And through this process, I did learn quite a bit about both horses and dog parks, but they don't always mix. And I believe, and maybe Victoria can nod her head or shake her head if she agrees or disagrees. My understanding is that it's not the dogs, it's actually the horses seeing the dogs that's the problem. And she's nodding. Okay, I got that right. So what we're planning on doing is this is about a 4-foot high chain link fence that's going to circumvent the dog park area. And along the line where the horses are doing their barrel runs and everything else, we're going to line that fence with either some sort of vinyl slats or some sort of vine network or some sort of vegetation to really block that view for the horse, so the horses don't see the dogs. The dogs can apparently see the horses, but the horses shouldn't be able to see the dogs. So that fence line between the two areas between the dogs and the horses is going to be blocked with either some sort of vinyl slat, some sort of artificial block, or some sort of vegetative visual block along there.
If I can jump in, our very first step in this process, almost 4 years ago, this fall will be 4 years, is we met with the Horse Corral Committee. and Ashley Sweat was in charge at the time. And we had overwhelming support and decided that our first priority would be to maintain friends and to make this a very gradual, peaceful development between the horse corrals and our proposed dog park. They had even mentioned that they know that the pins, the exercise pins and the barrels are not on the horse corral property, that those had actually just kind of moved themselves over and gained a little bit of extra space. So we always knew in the back of our mind, the dotted line, that area could be used. And this year, as we got really focused on our planning, that was one more reason to separate and do the large and the small and say, here is the future area. If the city, if other people want to continue and build this and make it a bigger dog park, which was the information and the feedback we got when we did the community meeting, was that they'd like this to be an ongoing, continuing to build project, that's available. But the committee on NHS was very adamant. They believed very strongly that we said step one to be friends with the horse corral committee and to make sure that all of the horses were comfortable because they had been there first. And so we wanted to do the smaller land, the area, so that even if it does, or even if it doesn't, that we could slowly build and expand for the comfort of those horses. If that provides any clarification too.
Mhm. Just one more question. So this recommendation, this approval of this recommendation tonight is for the large dog park and the small one, or for the entire area that is dotted lined?
Can I step in there? It's actually just for development in the Greenbelt Overlay District. So which is kind of the top left corner there is really, I mean, it's mostly just for approving the development in the Greenbelt Conservation District.
Yeah, it's not shown, the Greenbelt limits are not shown on the plan itself, but if you imagine sort of a green line going across the top of that development, the dog park is going to be is encroaching into that Greenbelt zone. And that's what this permit is for.
Mark, do you have that where you can display that?
Yeah, do you have a laser pen or something?
We have a site plan, or we have a kind of an aerial photo showing that it doesn't show the outline. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
It's coming. Oh.
Yes.
So it's just that couple of feet along the back?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's just that northern edge, and the zoning edge is kind of rough there. In general, that overlay zone is intended to protect the river, the green belt, and the steep slope.
Right.
The proposed development of the dog park is to be on the flat part on the top, but because it comes near that the edge of the slope, exactly where that zoning line is maybe a little bit fuzzy, but it's right there.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, I would like to hear from a couple of the students involved as to why they're all about this dog park. What made them think about this, and what are their goals? I'd like to hear just a few of their thoughts.
A good person to unmute would be Rory Ratliff or Colby Hester. Those are the two officers from this year.
So I'm the NHS president of this year, and I've been in NHS for about 3 years now. So I started with this program a little bit earlier than our younger classmen. And so far, what we've been wanting to achieve is we wanted to leave something in the town that is a landmark, or something that's permanent in the town, to show that we are able to like have this service, and we can do what we want to achieve when we join National Honor Society. We always practice that you need to have the service and you need to be involved in the community. And so what we're trying to do is just take another big step about being involved in the community and making sure that people know, like, NHS is part of the high school, and we're taking big steps, and we're raising a lot of money, and we're trying to put that to use.
I'm Colby. I was the secretary this year for NHS. And to go off what Rory said, it was really seeing an issue that we have with our community. A lot of people in Green River have dogs, and they're all very passionate about their dogs. And they all kind of needed a space to take their dogs. The most we have are like your baseball parks, which are fenced in. So we saw this issue that these people want some place to enjoy with their dogs. And seeing that Rock Springs had their dog park and they also use it with the Green River Animal Control, we saw it as mostly like a multiple purpose area. It's not just for the community members to use, but I know that the animal shelter can utilize it to give those dogs running space as well. And as a dog owner myself, it's kind of hard to take our dogs someplace because they like to run everywhere and they often have hearing issues and don't want to come back. So having those fenced off areas and having an area so close to animal control where you can watch the other dogs interact and you can come together as a community was kind of the big reason that I stepped up and wanted to be an officer to help with this project.
Okay, thank you. Does do any of their students want to speak? You can raise your hand. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions from the commission?
I do. Commissioner Brown,
Go ahead.
if I may. I'm all for dog parks, most definitely. Okay. I just don't understand why we want to put it here. Green River's got so many other parks that's more centrally located. Why aren't we looking there instead of coming into an area like this? Just even looking at Mark's comments, there's a lot of things that are thrown out there for accessibility. Okay. I don't want this to turn into like the bike park that's all the way out in the middle of nowhere and rarely used. If you look at the bike park compared to the skate park, which is almost in the middle of Green River, that's used all the time. I just don't want this one to get kind of pushed off to the side, go through, make all these environmentally changes to sustain this location and then have it sit. So I've got some concerns with where it's at. I mean, the drawings and everything is fine. I'm sure it'll all work, but why are we going to put it there and not look at utilizing some of the parks, one of the many parks that we have that aren't being used?
You know, I guess one advantage that we saw when we were looking at this at the location was its proximity to the Greenbelt. You know, a lot of people use the Greenbelt. It's a fairly heavily used means of transportation and means of recreation for the community, and that's what made it kind of attractive to me, is that it's right along the Greenbelt. People walk their dogs and they could walk them right to this dog park, and also its proximity to the to animal control. That there could be a kind of a joint effort or joint use of this between dog owners and then of course animal control. So that also made it I guess attractive to me as far as location. Victoria, did you want to?
Yeah, so I don't know, I saw Brad on here, Brad Rainey, about, gosh, I want to estimate like maybe somewhere between 12 to 15 years ago, there was a proposed dog park from the city. There wasn't an organization working on it. And so that kind of lingered in our mind when this came up 4 years ago. And our initial step when we took it to the city, we talked to Brad Rainey, and that was the allotted area that had already made it through so many steps or so much clearance Obviously not to this extent, but that the land was there and it was free and it was given and it was already, had already been looked at as of an area that could have a dog park. So in addition to animal control, greenbelt access, we were told this would be a good place because this is where the city had thought about one before. And I don't know if Brad is on here to speak to that too.
And that was 12 years ago.
Is it okay if I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
I'm Brad Rainey. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. Yeah, this has kind of been an idea for a long time to have this area be a dog park. There's some standards that Mike's probably discovered as he's researched dog parks. Preferably, you don't want them in a residential neighborhood. A lot of our parks, most of our parks are within a residential neighborhood. There's Stratton Myers, that's BLM land, so that's a whole nother set of hurdles you would need to go through there. But almost all of our parks are near residents, and that's not recommended for a dog park. There should be at least an acre. You need access to water. It's proximity to the green belt, like it's been mentioned. We've explored a lot of different areas, and it's my recommendation as the Parks and Recreation Director to have it placed there.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, thoughts, questions from the commission?
Chairman, this is Commissioner Knight.
Okay.
So is there going to be access from the green belt? Because it looks to me like that's just a straight up hill. How is that going to be handled?
So we looked at, I think with the initial design, I think what we're leaning toward is if you, and it's not shown on that map, but if you look off to the east, the elevation difference between the flat area that is the dog park and the horse corrals and the green belt start to converge. They're about the same elevation. And then as you get closer to the dog park area, there's quite a bit of elevation difference between the two. There was some thought put into, okay, do we put in stairs that would access the green belt to the dog park area? And if we do that, do those have to be wheelchair accessible? Do we have to put in some expensive ramps to do that? And then ultimately, I think what we decided upon was to provide an access, or maybe like a trail from the horse corral area over to this area. So it would run along the back side of that slope area from the green belt. So yes, there'd be access. It's probably not the most direct access, but there would be access from the green belt to this dog park area.
Ultimately, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Ultimately, though, it's not that's not what we're here for tonight. It's just to decide whether or not they can use that property, but not how it's going to be designed, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So the purpose, and this has been through a couple of public meetings and public comment opportunities. This particular meeting deals more with the permit of the dog park within that green belt area. So you're correct, Commissioner. That's really the purpose of us. And I don't know that I mean, personally, I don't mind answering questions, and I'm sure Victoria doesn't either, but that really is the purpose of the meeting tonight, not necessarily to approve or disapprove of the dog park as a whole, but to either recommend or not recommend to City Council the permit to move forward with this within that green belt zone.
Sure. So my question is really related to, are we bringing dogs past the horses? Are we going to alter the state of the green belt in order to accomplish this? I mean, that's really why I'm asking that question, is trying to understand, are there going to be impacts to the green belt? Because that's what we're here to talk about. Right. And to the neighbors, are we going to be doing something on the east side? Are we going to be bringing a bunch of dogs past those horses in order to accomplish this? Or are we bringing a lot of extra traffic into the area when we want to kind of keep that peaceful? So, and I don't have a real sense of that. I think if the community feels like this is the right place, then, that's up to the next group to decide, I guess, but I'm good. That was my question.
Mike, if you'd like, I can address a little bit of the access that we discussed.
Sure. Go ahead, Mark.
Commissioner Knight and Commission, one of the things that we mentioned the number of comments that I made on the initial application. And it's true, I did make a lot of comments, and I think it was important that a lot of different areas were considered, that we just didn't give a nod to it, that we actually gave it a fair hearing. One of the comments that I had made was about that access and how people were going to be able to access the dog park from the green belt or from the adjacent sidewalks and the pedestrian circulation system. One of the things I observed as I was out on site one day is we do have kind of in this area along, there's an existing road that runs from the animal control area over to kind of the edge of the horse corral area where people are beginning to park. It's been somewhat improved by the streets department. Some asphalt millings have been placed there, and people are starting to park there and use that to access the greenbelt. And I have observed that people use that as a trail. Coming off the greenbelt, they walk their dogs along that course. That would be while it may have been originally improved as a kind of a bypass when we were rebuilding East Teton, or kind of developed as kind of a bypass or an access point for some of our greenbelt users, it does function as a circulation route for people walking their dogs. They do use it. So that is kind of one of the things that in our discussions was, how are people going to access this? I think they're going to access it like they do now. They're going to walk along that improved gravel trail and get to the entrances that they want to get to.
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Carl.
I'd just like to thank the Honor Society. I think this is something that the city of Green River needs, and the city probably would want, or the community would want. I don't mind the area. I don't think you could do much anything else with that area. One thing I had a question of is, I assume there's going to be some kind of ground covering. Do you know what that ground covering is? And would that affect that conservation area there?
You want me to address that, Victoria? Okay, she's giving me the thumbs up. So the way it stands now, it's going to be a combination. And we looked at a number of different surfaces. The green areas that you see in both the small dog area and then a portion of the large dog area is grass or sod or turf. So we'll need irrigation, obviously, for that. But felt it was important to have grassy areas for dogs to play in. And then the other area that's denoted, I think, with the one on your plan, we originally looked at like a gravel or like a pea gravel type of surfacing, and then later kind of backed off that, figuring that's probably not the most suitable surfaces for dogs. It's a relatively inexpensive surfacing, which is why we originally proposed it. But I think we've got some comments back from the city and then from our own research saying that this is probably not the most suitable. So the one is, I think right now it's denoted on the plan as either like a natural grass type of landscaping where it's kind of a natural seed, or it's like, I think they're called engineered wood chips, which are potentially suitable and they're ADA compliant, but they're extremely expensive. So I think, if I remember right, it's been a while since I looked at my own plan, but I think what we ended up with, at least for this plan, was to go with the kind of a natural grass seed for that other area that's not green. It's kind of a grayed out area.
Thank you. That answered my question.
Mike, could I just make one more comment?
Sure, go ahead, Brad.
Just, this is probably relevant to whether it affects the green belt or not. We maintain this area, my department does, and this is basically just a weed patch is what it is. We have to go cut weeds, and so in my opinion, this is a big improvement to the area. And then I think the riding barrels, there's just 3 barrels out there. We do have an arena for that that's open to the public. That's just really convenient for the horse corral owners to have it there, but we do have a whole arena dedicated to that too. But I think this would be a really good improvement to the area. That's just, we just cut weeds there is all we do.
Thanks, Brad. I'm just kind of scrolling through. I don't have everybody on the screen at the same time, so I'm kind of scrolling through and seeing if anybody else has comments or questions. Doesn't look like it. Anything else from the commissioners?
I'm good.
I am good. In fact, I wouldn't mind making a motion.
Okay.
You ready?
Floor. Yep.
Okay. I move to recommend approval of the special use permit for a dog park to be constructed on property located at 80 East Teton Boulevard, Green River, Wyoming, filed by Green River High School Honor Society, and to forward said recommendation to the governing body for public hearing at the June 2nd, 2020 City Council meeting.
I will second.
Okay. So I've got a motion by Commissioner Slaughter, a second by Commissioner Bosner. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Well, thank you, Victoria, and thank you, NHS, and thanks for all your hard work. You guys have been amazing. Okay, so going back to the agenda, looking at old business, I see none. The next on the agenda is a nomination of election of the 2020 chair and 2020 vice chair. And I don't know, I mean, we can vote on this tonight. Well, we could, I believe we could table it if we wanted to until we can actually meet in person, but I guess I'll open it up to the commission and what you guys want to do.
You know, okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner Slaughter.
It's hard to know when to talk. I would say, let's just table it for a month and hope that we can have a meeting next month, whether we have a variance or not put before us. We could have a meeting just so that we could get all of our things that need to be done, and then we could talk and maybe even use it as an educational session for a minute question and answer time for us new commissioners.
Okay.
So my suggestion is to table it until our next meeting.
I agree.
Okay.
Are we missing any commissioners, or I'm not even sure who's on here now anymore since we've been gone for so long?
We've got, as far as I know, we've got 6, and they're all 6 of us are here. So we still have 1 vacancy, which would make 7 total.
Okay. I'm good with whatever.
Okay. I don't know that we need a motion to table, but if everybody's in favor, then we can table until we can actually meet. Hopefully we can meet in person next time.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay. So the next thing on the agenda, if we're going to table that, is petitions and communications from the floor. Normally we would open it up to anybody from the public. And it looks like I'm seeing more people drop off than are joining.
Mhm.
So hearing none, I'll turn it over to Amy for reports and communications from staff and the April 2020 report.
All right, I forgot I had to do that. What do I mean, and honestly, I'm sorry, I've never done this portion of it, so
Oh.
do I just give you?
So in the back, it looks like, and usually I guess we just get a kind of quick briefing on, and I'm just gonna go through these, the number of building permits issued. I guess what's the, if there's been a trend in that here lately.
Gone up by 2.
What's that?
I said it's gone up by 2 from last year.
Yeah, yeah. Business licenses, new occupation permits. I mean, we've got all this information. That's usually what's, I guess we usually just get a quick briefing on it, but we do have all the information, so. Maybe we can just open it up to questions then, or maybe the commissioners have questions on the information that was provided.
I know this sounds silly, but what is a new home occupation permit? Are you asking permission to move into a new house or what?
A home occupation permit? It's
New
just-
home,
It's just somebody doing business, like as long as it's a permitted business, they're doing it from their home. But it's not supposed to change the residential appearance of the home or anything like that. Just small office or people work on their computers or things like that.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
So sorry.
So I guess any other comments, questions on the report presented to the commission?
I think Victoria has a question.
Oh, go ahead.
I am so sorry. You have like official order in business. I got so nervous and so excited. I just shut my laptop. I just got scared. This is really hard for me, and I'm used to being in my classroom with my kids. So I just jumped back on to show my gratitude to each and every one of you. This has been a huge learning process. So thank you guys. I won't be so nervous if I see you again. Okay.
Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell you what, she said she was nervous, but working with these kids, these National Honor Society kids from the high school, they are unbelievably smart and dedicated to what they do. And I went into this, of course, we're doing some design work for them, and I went into this thinking that I'm going to have to kind of show these kids on how things are done. And I've learned more from them than they ever learned from me. I mean, they're just wicked smart, and it's almost intimidating being around them. They're right and that motivated. So I've learned a lot from them, and it's amazing to see how much they've done just in high school. And it's hard to imagine even 5-10 years from now what they're able to accomplish, because they've done so much just in high school with this whole thing. So it's been pretty amazing. So okay, so anything else on the report?
I made a note here on this report to make sure that I give a summary at the next meeting. So I'll be prepared next meeting.
Okay, Mark, anything else to add on your end? Looks like your site's under construction.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Well, thanks again, both Amy and Mark and the other members of the city for putting this on. I think it actually went rather smoothly. One of the better Zoom meetings I've had. So I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, thank you guys for all that you're doing too, going through this big mess. Everybody on the commission and everybody at the city. I mean, it's good to know that we're still running.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain our favorite motion.
I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There never is. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody. Good night.